ready to go?
Wait, no.
3, 2, 49, take 49. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Scott, the Eutopia principles that you've been working on, obviously work in a lot of areas, but we're thinking primarily in the business place. And what do these principles look like when they're fleshed out inside the business, within those four walls of the average small business?
Yeah.
What is it going to look like?
So, as often happens, I want to sort of give the question some context. You said business, and for sure, business. So business organization, primarily about an economic activity that provides benefit to others, that creates value. I like to think in three categories of organizations. There's a business, which is primarily focused on economic activities. Educational institutions, which are organizations in themselves, and they have an economic factor they have to balance. And then there's organizations like nonprofits, who their primary aim is to do something that benefits people, and oh, by the way, we need money to do that.
Would churches be in that too, or?
I don't know about churches. I don't say anything about how I think things ought to go in a church.
Kind of sui generis.
That
They're
is
on their own class here.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's a tricky ground to get in.
Sure,
I'm going to
okay.
stay
So
off of
we're
that.
talking about educational organizations, financial ones, they're trying to provide a service or product.
Yeah, workplaces.
And then the nonprofits, which also are providing services and products, but
Right.
the profit is going right back into building the business.
So people like to emphasize the differences amongst the three of those, and I like to emphasize the similarities.
Okay.
And so to me, they're all organizations, and this applies to any of them. So the main difference is we have the aim of any organization, I think, can be summarized under 3 points. And they're going to sound odd for what you think of as a business. Point number one, people join an organization and they're working together with other people in an organization leads to them developing their potential. Definition of an organization, people intentionally working together for a common purpose. So that's why I say it works for a school, nonprofit, and what we think of as a business. So the highest value is how that work affects people. And the first people you have to be concerned with is the people who join the organization to work there. And typically in a business, the most important person is the customer that you're doing your work for. And I would say, yes, the customer you're providing a product or service to is very important. But if you don't have people who join your organization who can provide that product or service, you can't meet their needs. And so the needs of the people who come to join your organization to do the work that you're about, those needs are prior to the needs of the customers that you're serving. If you can't meet the needs of the people who join your organization, you can't meet the needs of your customer.
Yeah, if you build it, they will come. So you got to build it first and make sure that the employees, the teachers, the directors are being trained and working together.
Right. Yeah. And if you don't build it, no one's going to come.
Right.
Sometimes you can build it and people don't come because you just totally missed the mark. Nobody has any interest in that. So the first thing is leadership in a good place organization understands this already. And one of the things that's challenging is, and I've been working in this for years, decades, is when you're working in an organization that has already existed under a whole different assumption of values, and then you want to change those values midstream while people are, 10, 20 years into their career, or 30 years into their career other places, and they're bringing that whole background of maximizing return on shareholder investment is why we're here. And to get them to flip that and treat the people in the organization like they're more important than your customers, because if you can't treat them well, you're not going to have any customers. So that's a big part, is that leadership spends lots of time and effort thinking about and acting on how to treat people in the organization well so they can treat your customers well.
Right, okay, I got it. So yeah, the customer still is kind of always right, but it's not the focus. If you treat your employees right, they're going to be in a place where they can actually do a great job with the customers. That's going to follow.
Right.
But you can't just ignore your employees, your directors, your teachers, because it's all about the customer, and whatever gets that done over there, you could be running roughshod with your in-house group, and it's like it's okay because the end goals are getting met, the customer is getting served, but you're saying no, that's going to backfire sooner or later.
It never works. It never works.
Okay.
And I think it was in the 80s, Swedish Airlines leadership had this aha moment when they realized that the people in their organization that their customers saw were the gate agents and the servers on the plane, the flight attendants on the plane. And in the org chart of their airlines, those were the people way down at the bottom of the org chart. But the leader of the organization had this moment where he realized that is the face of the organization, our customers who pay all of our salaries. And so we need to focus on supporting those people who are customer facing. That's what brings the customers to us. You know, and they had that in sort of a enlightened self-interest style of thought versus seeing that as a value. And so our seeing that as a value is grounded in the fact that we're God's children, created for glory. We're created in the image of God, but not the full likeness of what God intends for us to be. And that work is one of the things that God creates in the world that leads us to grow and develop and become fully human, what God intends us to be. And so the point of having an organization is to give people the opportunity and encouragement to get on that growth path that God has for all of us.
The people being the people inside the organization, the teachers, the employees, the directors. And so because God gives us this growth path throughout our lives, the notion here is, you know, people in charge, if you will, the managers, the C-suite, the owners, they need to be looking at these people as sort of gifts that they've been given for a time to develop. We're talking about their own employees. And not only do you train them and develop them to do the skill set at hand, that is the identity of your company, you know, but it's more than that, right? It's now you're dealing with someone who needs to be growing because that's what humans do.
Right.
They grow mentally, they grow emotionally, and they grow psychologically. So what, you know, so a good place, a Eutopia organization is going to be saying, we have these people here inside our walls for 8 to 10 hours a day. How do we help them not only with their skill sets, but how do we help them develop their leadership, their potential to grow, and the next step of their career in terms of promotion or doing better jobs or bigger jobs? But then also, how do we just help them understand the big things about life, become educated, be better readers, be better talkers, be better thinkers, be better humans. It's all that.
You're on it. You are on it, brother.
So it's the training, and then it's, you know, broader notion of education, and then it's just let's develop all of that to better people serving the business, but they're also going to be better people just at large, if you will, roaming the world and bringing some goodness outside. So this is really at the heart of what a Eutopia organization is going to be thinking. It's like that's the foundational down there. We've got people in these walls. How do we make them better?
Yeah, so excellent. And I would just a couple color comments on that. You talked about these people being gifts, you know, to the leadership. Which is true. If you're in leadership, you're trying to see that something happens and you have these people, that's awesome. I tend to think of it as, you know, gift is kind of like it's been given to me, you know, for my benefit. And I like to see it that these are, you know, full valued children of God, equivalent to any of us. We all have the same value. All humans have the same value, one. Everyone has the same value. It's one. And if you have the ability to organize labor for other people's benefit, then that's your role in the organization. And if you have that ability, then you have a responsibility to do that to God's standards, which is you've been put in charge. You're a servant who has a role of responsibility with the other servants. So you're at that servant level for God. Are you discharging that responsibility for God's purposes or for your own or for someone else's? So God's purpose for work is that it's something that's in our life that God can use to build us up into who we are.
Right.
So learning how to pick an employee, a job, learning how to drive a tractor trailer and be safe and efficient and effective, and learning how to do that and doing that well changes us. And there's something about that work that makes us a better person.
Yeah.
And as a leader, are you looking at the work environment that you're creating to make an environment so people can grow and develop, literally through the specific work that you do? Are you doing that? Or are you saying, I'm going to make them work so I make the absolute most money and it's going to be a miserable experience for them.
Right.
They're not going to grow. So that's the accountability that you have. And there's, Jesus tells this parable about people who the owner left it in the hands of some servant. He came back for his harvest and they wouldn't give him the harvest. He said, what would the owner do with those people who are running the vineyard? He says, well, you throw them out. So the harvest that God wants from employment is that people grow and develop to become more fully human. Do you create an environment where that happens? Yes or no?
Yeah. Well, so there's an older notion of education. This is a classical Greek notion of pairing up the student with a good person and just letting that student be with the good person. And I think this also goes back to Jesus' claim with the disciples to say, be with me, just be with me.
Right.
So there is a sense that the leadership in a utopian organization needs to be good themselves and to let that goodness be the educating battery or energy, if you will. But there's also the sense that good work can help you develop good work.
Right.
And that work needs to be growing in complexity and in value and in meaning. So as we move forward into an age of automation and so much of menial tasks that can be, with an initial investment, can be done by instruments, software, machines, maybe people can now start moving more towards meaningful work where you don't have to convince yourself so much that you're actually growing through the work when you're simply, doing a menial task. But the good work itself, the challenging work, the complex work can help someone grow. And I think that this is something that leaders of a good place should keep in mind in certain terms of what are you going to saddle somebody up with for 6 months? And how will that harm their spirit or cause them to grow as a person? And it does come down to the leadership having a vision here.
Right. And another thing that Jesus said about leadership, and you had a good one, come be with me. He had the key statement where he said, the leaders of the Gentiles lord it over them. That's not how you're going to be.
Right.
The greatest will be the least. The most important will be the servant of all. And a phrase that I like to use is leadership is a role for serving others. And so the higher up the org chart you are, the more people you are serving. And so it's not that you have more privilege, you have more responsibility. And it's not a role for saying, oh good, I want to get up there so I can enact my will over all these people. You get a role that has greater responsibility because you've shown that you can develop people through their work to be what God has them to be. It's not a position to say, I want to be in charge and make people have to do what I say.
Right.
So it's a flip of what we often see.
Well, it's a weighty commission because you do have the New Testament telling you those that seek to be teachers and developers of human beings have a serious,
more serious judge, a higher level of judgment, and that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
You should not go, oh great, now I'm in charge. No. Oh boy, I gotta make sure I play this right because I could damage people.
Right, right. Okay.
We can get.
Well, we need 2 more.